Hey everyone, it's Jack from WhatCulture.com, and in a week where wrestling news has been forced to take a back seat to politics and the UK general election, which took place last night, let's really get it back to the fore, because politics is all serious and important, and let's remember that wrestling is fun. What's more fun than men punching each other and doing throws and stuff in tight clothes, and women as well? God, I forgot about women's wrestling. I'm Jack from WhatCulture.com, and this is the Fast Count. First, let's start off with all of this week's WWE news. Now, first of all, it's time to talk about Brocky Lesnar, big old Les. And if you want to avoid knowing who his future opponents are likely to be, at least according to the Wrestling Observer newsletter, then do skip ahead to point number 2. Just watch for the picture to change, I guess, when you're scrolling forwards, because there are going to be some potential spoilers. It might all be untrue, but these are heavily rumored things that are going to happen. So if you want to avoid that, just skip on ahead. Just skip on. Now, we all know that at Great Balls of Fire, Brock is taking on Samoa Joe, who won the Fatal 5-Way at Extreme Rules, but who will his opponents be after that? Well, we've also heard the rumours, of course, that he's going to be taking on a returning Braun Strowman at SummerSlam, and then probably Roman Reigns all the way next spring at WrestleMania 34 in New Orleans. However, the Observer have since reported that Brock's filler opponent, shall we say, have also been determined. He is likely to face, in between SummerSlam and Mania, in between Strowman and Roman Reigns, he is likely to face Finn Balor at some point, and also Seth Rollins. Now, there's no guarantee that Brock will, of course, hold the title for all those matches. He might well lose it to Joe, he might lose it to Strowman, he could lose it to any one of them, but everyone really does think that he's going to take the belt into WrestleMania 34, so if he does lose it, expect him to gain it back at some point. Personally, I just think he'll hold it all the way through. Next up, there is a new member of the broken Hardy family. I am, of course, referring to the very real news that Matt and Rebby Hardy have announced the birth of their second son, Wolfgang X Hardy. And if Wolfgang follows his older brother's path in wrestling, it won't be too long before he actually makes his in-ring debut. King Maxwell, of course, has a pinfall victory over Rockstar Spud in Impact Wrestling. And finally, and sadly, Austin Aries has announced that he is to take a break from wrestling, possibly to recover from niggling little injuries here and there. He did release a statement in which he said, "I've got some stuff going on, but just to be fair, you could probably say that for a lot of the guys in the locker room. It's kind of part of what we do. I don't think anyone is ever 100%. So I've got a couple of things going on, and obviously at this point, it might be a good time to take a little break." This is particularly sad news because Austin was on an incredible run of form. His matches with Neville were superb. He was looking very crisp and sharp in the ring, and he was getting over with the fans as a cocky, arrogant babyface. And it's a shame to see him out. Hopefully, he won't be out for too long, and then we can see him return maybe to the Cruiserweight division. Maybe this would even be a good enough excuse to transition him onto the main roster instead. And now it's time for all the news from elsewhere in the what's going on? The what's going on insane world of Pro-ington wrestling. We've got some news from Japan coming up. We've got some news from, I can only remember the first one. First, let's head over to Japan, where there's been another 5-star match according to Dave Meltzer, and it was in the final of the Best of the Super Juniors 2017 between Will Ospreay, my personal friend, and Kushida, the winner of 2015. Ospreay, of course, won in 2016. He was going for back-to-back tournament wins. Instead, it was Kushida who won in an unbelievable match, a really, really good match. There were some, I'm going to describe them as gnarly. There were some gnarly ass spots in this. At one point, there was a reverse Rana kind of thing on the apron, where Kushida landed headfirst on the apron. Ospreay was just flipping all over the place, but still maintaining a good grasp of selling and psychology and all the things you want to see in a modern day epic encounter. And Kushida was his usual brilliant self as well. Check that match out definitely if you haven't seen it yet. Fully deserving of 5 stars in my opinion. But then I also personally preferred Pete Dunne and Tyler Bates' match at NXT TakeOver Chicago So you could argue that that match also deserved 5 stars, but Meltzer didn't. This is going to again bring up the whole, is Meltzer biased in favor of New Japan and against WWE? That debate's probably going to resurface. It's hard to tell. What do you think? Let us know whether you think Meltzer's biased, or whether you think some WWE matches have deserved 5 stars ever since the last one in 2011 between John Cena and CM Punk. It's time to look at Progress now, the London-based promotion which has been really growing in the past few years thanks to the work of guys such as Jimmy Havoc, Marty Scurll, Will Ospreay, all these top-tier English, British wrestlers. It was their Super Strong Style 16 tournament this past weekend, which is kind of their equivalent of like the Battle of LA or even the Best of the Super Junior. It's their big showpiece sort of tournament, and the winner was Travis Banks. Now, even if you're not familiar with Progress, you may have seen Travis Banks in WCPW, or you might have seen him elsewhere on the indie scene. He is from New Zealand, but he's really made a home for himself in the UK, wrestling all over the place, always putting an incredible effort in. He's a really hard worker and a really good wrestler as well. He's often a heel. He's recently became a babyface in Progress, and he defeated 3 opponents en route to taking that Super Strong Style 16 crown, including Jimmy Havoc in the first round, Flamita in the second round, a very young luchador, and in the final he defeated the reviled heel in Progress. I know he's facing WWE, but heel in Progress, Tyler Bate. That's not all. In his victory speech after the match, Travis Banks asked Jim Smallman, the authority figure of Progress, he asked him for a title shot at their next big show at the Alexandra Palace in London against Pete Dunne for the Progress Championship. It's a really exciting storyline. Everyone's getting behind Travis Banks. It should be a really good old school babyface versus heel encounter. And this isn't the sort of news that I would typically report on. I don't know too much about the world of Mexican wrestling, but if something big happens over there in CMLL or AAA or one of those promotions, I will report on it. And this, in my opinion, was big news. When we found out in the office that it had happened, we all, I think popped is the term, we all popped for this news. It was very exciting indeed. The news is that for the first time in 20 years, there is a new CMLL World Heavyweight Champion who isn't from Mexico. So it's been 20 years since the last non-Mexican champion. If you don't know who it is, have a guess who the last one was in 1997. I'll give you some clues. The title was vacated after he won it because he left to go to the WWF. He had a notorious gimmick in the Attitude Era, a very archetypal adult-themed Attitude Era gimmick. His last name rhymes with penis. That's right, it's Val Venus. Or Steel with an E on the end, as he was known in CMLL. Don't say you never learn anything here on the Fast Count. So that was in 97, but just this last week we've seen the next non-Mexican champion, the first one in 20 years, and it's none other than Marco Corleone. You might be like, who is Mark? Who's that guy? You may have heard of him if you were a fan of late horrible era WCW or kind of Ruthless Aggression era, early Ruthless Aggression WWE. It's Mark Jindrak. You may have heard of him if you heard the story that he was originally going to be the powerhouse of Evolution before being replaced by Batista for reasons that are still unclear to this day. But hey, at least he's the CMLL World Heavyweight Champion, the first non-Mexican in over 2 decades. It's pretty neat, pretty neato, you guys. Pretty neat fact. And finally, it's time for my Wrestler of the Week. This has been, I'm not going to lie, this has been the hardest week for me to choose a Wrestler of the Week since we started introducing it to the Fast Count. The main contenders in my mind are threefold. Travis Banks for his Super Strong Style 16 win, Will Ospreay and Kushida for their awesome match in the final of the Best of the Super Juniors, the Michaels, the 2 writers in the office, the lads, the Dudley boys, they're both fathers. They're not with each other. They've both got wives, but they're both called Michael. They're not the same person. It's a long story. One of them, Michael the Pamphlet, he suggested that I should maybe try and include The Miz, who had a very hilarious segment on Monday Night Raw following a really quite underrated match with Dean Ambrose at Extreme Rules, which was hampered a little bit by a weird stipulation, but still quite good. He also suggested Samoa Joe, who of course won the Fatal 5-Way, and then had another excellent promo segment with Paul Heyman. And they're all really good considerations, but I'm going to stick with my original choice of Travis Banks, and here is why. Although Ospreay and Kushida had a 5-star match, and you can't deny that, I feel like Travis Banks had more of a journey over the course of the last week. The whole long-term story is that his stable, the South Pacific Power Trip in Progress, that's him, TK Cooper, and Cooper's girlfriend Dahlia Black, who's a women's wrestler in her own right, the latter two have had to go back to New Zealand because their visas expired. They're going to try and get new ones and come back to the UK. Travis was left on his own and was turned face by his excellent kind of underdog performances against bigger guys, his relentless attitude to wrestling and all the rest of it. And then he beat, Tyler Bate clean in the final. It was face versus heel. The crowd were really behind him. The pop was insane when he won, and the pop was just as big when he announced that he's going for Pete Dunne's title as well. So for that reason, even though Ospreay and Kushida had the best match of the week and one of the best matches of the year, I'm going to have to give this one, for a combination of great wrestling and great storylines, to Travis Banks, the Kiwi buzzsaw. So that's all for this week on the Fast Count. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Jack from WhatCulture.com. You have been watching a video edited by the one and only Adam Pacitti. Let's give him a big round of applause. Adam, if you want to get yourself in somehow, Photoshop a bit of you zooming into frame and then back out again. You want a big round of applause to you there, mate. And there's not much more to add. Thank you again for watching. Leave your opinions in the comments section below. And I, and all of us here at WhatCulture.com, we will see you very, very soon. Out! What? No, let's just cut that. Let's leave that last bit out. That was horrible.